How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be featuring another match in the Ohio. Following up our previous video, we've been kind of trying to find new builds to fit in the current meta of a bunch of Preussens on, well, the enemy team at least, and then always kiting at the back of the map and sniping with their hyper accurate guns that kind of make the game unfun while they're just sailing away, angled away, kiting to the border. More often than not, it does also cause their team to lose, which is fine. But I mean, just a bunch of things kiting is extremely boring, as this Preussen is basically planning to do the exact same thing. Turn and kite to the border while staying angled away. We were fortunate enough though that our friendly destroyer was able to spot him and we caught him broadside. So we're at least able to do 17,000 damage to him, which is fairly decent. Probably could have been a little better. But this is the main problem that we're facing these days with the Preussen meta. And it's just kiting Preussens, so you kind of just can't really do pushing in very well. And if you do, well, more often than not, you're just going to suffer. And then just eat a bunch of damage to your superstructure and maybe even have your turrets blacked out, which have actually happened quite often from Preussens. Again, just because the guns are so accurate, they're probably going to hit your superstructure or turret from max range regardless, which does suck more often than not. So our build has been ever-changing. We have been using Optimus Prime, and lately we've switched one of the inspirations to Megatron, just so we had a chance to reach the enemy Preussens that are just kiting away. Otherwise, we would have 18 kilometers if we did have the Enrique Fernandez build. Or if we had Hipper Haruna, we would have been sitting at 17.5. So even more suffering trying to push in and reach them while they're just kiting away at 18 to 20 kilometers and just smashing you while you try to play the game. So the build that we eventually went to had Megatron and Hipper. And, well, I've then needed to find a better build because we just simply weren't doing enough with our main guns. And then we switched out Hipper for, I forget what we did, Cunningham maybe. But at that point, the build that we are trying to build with Optimus Prime basically is just a accuracy commander, realistically. And there is a commander that is out now, Riker. Now, obviously, you have stuff like New Jersey and even Hoshino, but Riker, you do get Master Mechanics, so you do have 5 heals. And then you have Marksman, Flammable Cannoneer, and Drill Bits. Unfortunately, no Porcupine. If there was Porcupine, I think I'd probably be running it. And probably would be the best commander for Ohio if that was the case. But unfortunately not. We'll have to keep waiting. But at least there is a fairly basic hybrid commander for the Ohio now. But yeah, we've gone back to Riker. The inspirations we have are Hipper and I'm pretty sure Cunningham, just to make our grouping as good as possible. I mean, 10% from Flammable Cannoneer and Cunningham. We're sitting at a 2.2 Sigma with Warspite Dispersion. So if you think about it, it's basically where our Puerto Rico is at. Not really a bad thing, more bad for Puerto Rico because it is a cruiser. But Preussen gets spotted through the islands. We take a pot shot and another fairly decent salvo. We're heading over to the A side just because the destroyer that was over there is dead. Our friendly battleship is running away from the Alaska and Yamato that is currently there. And we have a friendly Brisbane kind of in a bad spot. He can't really reverse because of the Preussen. And the Alaska and Yamato are, well, not that far away from just pushing in and dev striking him. So we're just trying to get into a spot where we can actually support him while the enemy team is mostly charging through the Charlie Cap. There is an enemy destroyer that's also sailed through, and our friendly destroyer kind of allowed that to happen, so can't really do anything about it. He does have some support, although with the way the game is, I have a feeling they don't really do anything. Yamato gets spotted just before he gets around the corner. I pop my spotter plane thinking that we're going to have like a 2.4 Sigma. We fire a full salvo at a broadside Yamato. We do get 1 Citadel, but that's all we get. Kind of really, really unfortunate. That's kind of been the story of my Ohio lately. When we get broadsides that we think we should be dev striking, for whatever reason, we don't get the hits that we're thinking. We have spotter plane as well. So you kind of assume that the accuracy would actually work. but for whatever reason it just doesn't feel like it does, and you're probably better off just not using a spotter plane at all. And that kind of does happen fairly often. Enemy Preussen, that was kiting at the back, and we did get a few pot shots in. He is pushing in, which, I mean, is great for a German battleship, although he has been basically broadside every single time. But yeah, at least he didn't kite to the back, otherwise he would have been a real pain in the butt to deal with. Preussen, flat broadside, saturation on Preussen sucks, so he does eat a huge chunk of damage, and he finally goes down. Alaska is kind of kiting. We do have to worry about the Alaska charging in though, because our friendly destroyer decided to smoke up in their spawn, and their Alaska was last spotted charging straight at our destroyer. So now we need to try and save him from this Alaska that's charging in. Our destroyer also only has about half of his HP, so he's not very healthy and not really in a good position to kind of escape, as Alaska is actually very close enough that he is actually able to radar our destroyer. RDD torps and starts running away, but he's radared and is getting shot at by the Alaska. Fortunately though, Alaska isn't able to really aim and actually land any meaningful hits, so that does help us out a little bit. Alaska slightly angled and charging in. I feel like this is the only time that we're ever going to get a Citadel, and fortunately we do land one. Kind of wish we had another. Our friendly battleship is very low and has decided to beach into the island. He's not really in a good spot. He's not going to get around, and I think Alaska does in fact reload before we do. He fires his guns. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to save our friendly battleship, and he's stuck beach broadside and does go down. Alaska did turn broadside enough though that our pens are able to finish him off. Enemy DD still sailing around in our spawn. I'm not really sure what happened. He is basically full HP, while our friendly DD is dead. I'm assuming that our friendly ships that were with him just simply wasn't helping, and now our Shima is just trying to run away and survive. Luckily for us though, we haven't really taken any sort of major damage in this match. In fact, we still have all 5 our heals, which is good because Delaware, obviously the hybrids have a free crossfire and cross drop with their consumable planes, so there's not going to be much that we can do. I'm just going to try to get into a position where we can deal with this Delaware. I kind of don't want the enemy destroyer, which is a Shimakaze, to kind of close the distance and get an opportunity to torpedo me while chasing our friendly Shima all the way to A. That would be the most unfortunate thing. So we're going to take our chances with the enemy Delaware, and he's in. Enemy Conch seems like he's going to sail south and kind of help the Shima chase our Shima in our spawn. So we're going to just keep pushing in and try to do what we can to the Delaware. Delaware planes take off, and at the same time as they're taking off, another plane spawns on our broadside, and unfortunately we can't really do anything about that. We pump our heel. Fortunately, I think we did shoot down one plane, so we don't take all 5 torpedoes, and he kind of underled that, but that's why we're kind of just speeding straight ahead, because we're trying to make sure that he doesn't get an opportunity to actually line up a perfect drop. Secondaries, I did say we had Hipper as an inspiration. Do kind of miss Porcupine because Porcupine did do a bunch of grouping and dispersion. Hipper only barely does any sort of dispersion, but it's mostly range. So we kind of have the Optimus Prime build if we just had Porcupine, which is kind of the build that we ended up moving towards when we had Cunningham and Megatron as inspirations. We're close enough though that our secondaries are able to land, and they do start a fire. Kind of all the Ohio secondaries are really good for. Delaware's last salvo, I'm not really sure what he was aiming at. I mean, I guess he wanted to black out my turrets, if anything. But he doesn't even get to manage that, and now it's just the enemy he's in. Our friendly Shima did end up going down, and unfortunately our gearing isn't really in any sort of spot to kind of go after their Shima. I'm also assuming our Shima didn't shoot his guns at all, and the enemy Shima is full HP. We also have that friendly Brisbane that was hiding from the Yamato and Alaska earlier. He is on a sliver of HP and hasn't healed up, so I don't think he has any heals remaining. Friendly Gearing starts smoking up. Not sure why. I'm pretty sure it's just because he wants to farm up with his main guns. I don't think it's for me at all. But we're just going to keep pushing through towards this Heathen because the Shima is in the objective, and I kind of want to not stick around bound reverse towards him or anything. So we're going to keep pushing this Heathen. We also got into secondary range, which I think is 9-7 with just Hipper and the secondary mod, which is good enough. Just sometimes I wish accuracy was better. But then again, seeing what our spotter plane did this match, which was minimal, I feel like we could get away with just running the secondary button, and it might just be better off with that. Enemy conch has pushed into the B cap. I ping it so that our DD goes over there, maybe gets the Shima spotted and can finish him off. Also being in a spot where our friendly Brisbane can maybe find a mountain or something to farm over while he has basically no HP remaining. Shima Torps gets spotted by our friendly gearing. Luckily we turned out of the way. There's not really a good spot for the enemy Shima to torpedo through the gap between the big and little island there. So fortunately I think we're going to be okay. Friendly gearing charges in and enemy Shima does get spotted. He dumps his torps and does start shooting. Shima smokes up and goes unspotted. There is gearing torps for the conch, but we do want to try and finish off the conch before he gets a salvo off and takes out our destroyer, because he is turning broadside to get rid of him. Obviously the gearing torps, we're going to finish him off either way, but it was to try and get rid of the conch before he reloaded, and unfortunately for us, he doesn't actually escape because conch reloaded in time. Friendly Brisbane charging in with a sliver of HP. Shima could easily finish him off. We need to fire main guns once we get a chance, because if Brisbane goes down, Shima can just run away, and I'm not very confident that we're going to come back from a major points deficit. Luckily though, Shima doesn't turn full broadside to use all his guns, and I guess he only used his front guns and wasn't able to finish off the friendly Brisbane, and we escape with a win that realistically we shouldn't have. I think this should have ended in a loss, but luckily enemy threw kind of badly. Also finished the match with 3600 base XP and 7 kills. Pretty good. We had 1 assist, so nearly dealt with the entire enemy team. I'm also pretty sure this is the most kills that we got in Ohio. Pretty sure. Not sure. But yeah, pretty good match. 275,000 damage. We also still got more than 100 secondary hits, which is a pretty good standard if you're building into secondaries at all. But yeah, Ohio, we've gone to Riker, and we do have Cunningham and Hipper. Essentially the same build, but slightly better. We're not as tanky if we were using Optimus Prime, but I feel like with fight fire with fire, which is how we kind of get away with most other battleships, we should be fine, especially because we do have that 40-second cooldown on the heal. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed. This is probably going to be our new build for now, as long as the Preussens are still out and about. And, well, if you did like this video, do leave a like and subscribe for more and share with your friends, or leave a comment down below for other ships you want to see in the future. But anyway, guys, till next time, aloha.